he stood me up because he wanted to go to the skate park.
Oh.
And I'm like,
oh, he will white.
I feel like women need to hear this. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you've got puss, you're locking it in. And you think I thought I was gonna meet my soulmate at a Chili's?
Yeah.
No.
I tried to smoke the fake aloe plant this morning. No, I'm kidding.
When you've been with somebody for a long time, and if your finances are tied together and and you've built a life together, it's not that easy.
Size though, because this would definitely give me a yeast infection.
I hate going to the gym and I can't stand being set up.
It feels like I just had a one-night stand and I'm like, where's his bed sheet?
I have a story, but have you ever been in a physical fight ever in your life at all?
So
I already know what's coming. Ellie's going to be like, it wasn't a fight because, well, I stabbed them and they died, but no, I'm kidding.
I wish it was a story where I was the badass.
Yeah.
In the end, I was not.
You're like, I got my ass kicked.
It was 6th grade. I had pink glasses, just slightly smaller than these. They were like the size of yours, pink. Yeah. And the chick pushed me, we were going up the stairs to a portable class for math. I remember Miss Goldberg's class, okay? Oh, talk about trauma.
Shout out Miss Goldberg.
Dude. Yeah, shout out Miss Goldberg. Don't remember shit. Thank you. I suck at math. I'm great at English.
You and I both.
It's not Miss Goldberg's fault, though.
Yeah, whenever my mom is like, you're terrible with your money and you don't know how to budget and how do you not have this paid off yet? I'm like, I'm a word gal.
You know, I just know how to make money.
Yeah.
I don't need to save it. Let me just keep making it.
Keep making it. Yeah, exactly.
So going up the steps, people were pushing. So then I didn't realize that that's what was going on. So this chick pushed me from behind. And maybe it was my first time getting my period. I don't remember. I just know I turned around and I smacked her, which was not, I don't know. But she punched me and broke my glasses, and then I cried.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then there was another time where this girl, Rashante, I forgot what she said to me, but I was not a sports person.
Was it the first time a person said Eli and not Ellie? It may be. I know.
By the way, you know who else called me Eli when I got here? Sean. Sean. He's like, shout out to fucking up your name. No.
She is an Eli though in the sense that she has a huge cock.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's never, it's great meeting somebody for the first time and just first impression getting the name wrong, right out of the gate.
He's like, hi Eli. I'm like, hi, it's Ellie. Go fuck yourself. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I give everybody one pass. It's the multiple offense that I'm like, now it's on purpose.
I do that with there's a million ways to spell Brittany, and whenever people consistently get it wrong, and my favorite is when they get it wrong in an email chain, and I'm like, you fucking jabroni, it's right there. Yeah, and I'm like, you're not. Oh, yeah.
So no, I don't remember what Ray did, but I know that while I was not athletic, for some reason that day I spiked a volleyball like a fucking pro.
Hell yeah. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah. Luckily, before she had a chance to jump over the net and kick my ass, nothing, it was stopped.
Yeah.
I almost died that day, but I didn't. And that's really, physically, that's really the only,
2 altercations.
Yeah. And my sister may or may not have lunged at me a couple years ago, but we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, but that's different. I mean, me and my cousin Danielle used to, wrestle, pull each other's hair. Yeah. I think smack each other a little bit. It was just a weird cat fight between 2 cousins. Yeah. That now we're it's funny whenever we see each other. She's always like, hey, shitty. And I'm like, hey, chlamydia skank. She's like, hey, you dumb slut. Love. Yeah, it's love. Yeah, we've come a long way. Yeah, it was actually kind of the same where I was put into, the only time that I can really remember was college, moving into my new apartment junior year. And my parents and I, we were starving and we went to an Applebee's nearby. Classy. Mistake number 1. I actually think when you go to an Applebee's, it's expected for you to fight. I feel like that's what you need to do.
And that's when they put your picture up on the wall with the rest of the kids.
Exactly. And you get a free chocolate ganache cake.
With ice cream that's melting before it gets there.
Exactly. And we got there and we were just so tired. And it was kind of like your story in that there was I remember a little bit of just a miscommunication with me and this girl was having a night. She had babies. She looked like a young mom, looked a little flustered. I don't remember seeing a baby daddy guy. I don't remember, but very flustered, and pushed her way out of the restaurant, was just on a rampage, and knocked into my mom on the way out, who kind of knocked into me. And I just said to my mom, oh, okay. And my mom was like, yeah, Like, oh, all right, whatever. But that was it. And in her head, I also don't know if alcohol was involved with her. We didn't take a blood alcohol measurement. But in her head, she thought I was like, the fuck? And I wasn't at all. She knocked into my mom. Like, she was a torpedo outside of this Applebee's in Gainesville. So the two of us were just kind of like, we were like, oh, well, okay, excuse you. Like, you know, and she came back in. And before I knew it, when I turned around, she had taken me and pushed me in the chest and into the wall at Applebee's because she thought I escalated when I didn't.
Right.
And I'll never
She heard, what the fuck, ho?
Yeah.
And
like,
you were like, what?
What? And I'm like, yeah. And it was, and she was like, what the fuck did you, and it pushed me into the wall. And then it was very funny. Before I could even react, my father, who at the time didn't have Parkinson's and had dexterity and physical strength, my father picked her up in like one swoop off of me, moved her away, and was like, we're not.
Oh, Papa Tony.
Yeah, like, we're
God
not
bless
doing this.
you.
And she was like, my mom was like, you should go. And then the manager rushed over, was like, we're so sorry, whatever. And we were like, we don't really know what just happened.
But did they comp your chicken tenders?
They did. They did. They did the right thing.
Okay.
Those people at Applebee's are good people.
Are they sponsoring this podcast?
They should. Hey,
Okay, but bleep that out if they don't, because no free advertising.
no free advertising.
That's right.
Because let's be honest, out of the fast food trifecta or quadrant, or that elevated sit-down fast food that is, I'm a TGI Fridays bitch.
Ooh.
What about you?
So my man and I met at a Chili's, so I feel like my loyalty.
Love that.
We actually were gonna have a ceremony at Chili's. We've been together 14 years and no ceremony.
Two
but
for one always.
Chili's
oh
is
man, baby back ribs.
telling me you can't meet your dream poppy at a Chili's.
Barbecue sauce.
I tell them, you hear me talk about it on stage. It's not just a bit. It's real life solid advice. It's like stay away from clubs. You got to meet your dream poppy at
Home Depot. Yeah.
But even a Chili's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or Waffle House.
Or Waffle House.
Ooh.
I don't know what you're meeting there, but you're meeting something there.
There's a really nice Waffle House in Broward. It's a little classier than the ones like the further north you go, like Jacksonville, where
You got to
nobody
be
has
ready
more
to
than three
fight.
teeth.
If you're going to a Waffle House, you're going to have to get ready.
You have to scrap at a Waffle House. Yeah, you do.
Applebee's, you train at Applebee's and then you go.
You
for the-
elevate to Waffle House.
I love that Sean. I love that you have a producer that's like hanging it, that gets to be part of it.
Oh, yeah.
He validates our whole experience.
I
I'm like,
told
if
him,
Sean's not laughing, I'm like, I'm leaving.
Oh, I know. He's not. I know. I told him, I was like, turn your mic on, because sometimes we, especially when it's two comics on the show, I'm like, we need a third voice of reason to be like, let me fact check this.
Yeah.
But so Chili's, okay. I don't even think I knew that you and Ramses met at Chili's.
We met at a Chili's in 2008.
Oh, wow.
Actually, and the only reason we even see this is just again how fate and the universe works, right? I was supposed to go on like a quasi date with like full disclosure, all right, with like the only white guy I ever even gave a chance
ever
to.
bang banged?
It's just
Did you-
listen,
oh, okay,
I like the Latino poppies.
It's fine.
You know, I tried to give this guy a chance, and listen, perfect point. He stood me up because he wanted to go to the skate park.
Ooh.
And I'm like,
oh, he will white.
I'm like, oh yeah, you know, he was. White long hair. Don't ask. It was a strange time.
It's fine.
But I know that day he's like, I'm gonna go to the skate park. I'm like, you do that, sweet chits. And I went to happy hour with one of my girlfriends, and then in walks this tall, dark, and handsome Panko Lechong.
Aries King.
That's right.
That you were like, you smell like you might be my future husband.
There you go.
That's it.
And so I remember turning to my homegirl and saying, because she was usually like, I was usually her wing puta, and I was like, I called this one. Because he walked in with a friend of his, the only reason we met too is because I happened to know the guy that he walked in with.
Oh, that's divine intervention from that God that made us mouthy, if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, which by the way, I love how that guy commented once on like my Instagram and was like, oh, don't forget that I'm the reason that you and Ramses are together. I'm like, no, you're not.
No. Me
I'm
and
like,
God are the
14
reason.
years of fucking... No, you are not the reason. Thanks to you being there, we may have met, but no.
Yeah, that's always a funny thing whenever people take too much claim and credit for setting people up. They're like, don't forget, I'm the one who brought him into that Chili's, so I'm basically Cupid. And you're like, okay, but do you suck his dick every night to keep him happy and keep him around?
Do you want to take credit for that too?
I didn't think so. Exactly.
Yeah. So it was a Chili's, and then the rest is history, man.
I love that you clocked him because Eliza Schlesinger, one of my favorites, has a bit about how men are always like, I was at the club. I wasn't looking for anything serious. Then I saw her. And she's like, bullshit. Women clock, men burn. And it's so...
I agree.
It's so true. Like, I have always... when it's worked out, I've always been the one that's clocked it. Or like, when I've clocked it, I've usually gotten it, luckily. Not always. Not
I was
always.
just about to say, I feel like women have a better chance. Like if we say, I want that, we have a better chance at possibly locking it in.
Yes, I would agree.
Versus, and it's like, I feel like women need to hear this. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you've got puss, you're locking it in.
And if you got swagger, you're locking it in. Yeah. Well, I think there is something to be said about that, because when women decide it, typically speaking, women are the harder ones to convince. Typically speaking, I usually say,
I'm like,
not always. Not always.
Oh my God, you're right.
Ellie's like, maybe, but I also almost went on a date with a white boy who skateboards, so maybe not. I don't know. No. So it's, but I think women first off determine when sex happens.
Yeah.
Women also get hollered at more, so it's a numbers game. We're getting this a little more often. And you're right. We do have the divine puss in between our legs, which is just attracts so many things, just attracts everything.
Yeah.
So I do think that when you're the one, when you take control or take the reins and you decide you want something, I don't think women realize, I guess to your point, a long-winded way of saying, how much power the puss is.
That's all they preach about.
Yeah.
I mean, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the golden ticket.
Yeah.
That's really just a metaphor for puss. If you want to know.
Go on. I need more of this.
No, I need to write this whole thing out because that's as far as I got. All I know is that you found it, baby. That's it. Welcome.
That's it.
Welcome to the factory. Come in for the tour.
Better than real money.
I know. For the record, I have shut down the factory. The shop is closed. Just one member.
One Oompa
I am a one-man Buddha, right? Because people are like, oh, but you're married, so you're obviously not a hoe anymore. And I'm always like, no, I'm a hoe for show.
Spiritually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just that now I'm a one-man hoe.
I said on an earlier episode where I said, I am the most celibate slut that I know. I'm just taking a breather.
Yeah.
I'm on the bench right now.
And that's fine.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And I'm a hoe. I think as you get older, you become a hoe energetically and spiritually. Like I'm very like, wear what you want, fuck who you want. I'm a hoe in theory.
Yeah.
I'm just 33.
There's different levels to the hoe-ness.
There's different levels to the
It's
hoe-ness.
not just about fucking.
No, it's a mentality.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle. I'm like, wear what you want.
It's a whole life. It's a whole
lifestyle.
Okay. There we go.
And who says they can't turn a hoe into a housewife? I look up to her for that
Lazy
reason.
fucks is who says that, by the way. Men who lack dedication and commitment. Because my man domesticated me. I will say this. I was thinking about this earlier, right? Because I was like, what are we going to talk about? One thing is, and why I preach to women, like, live your best whole life, have fun, and not just like with guys or like whatever you're into, right? Like sexually.
But let yourself live.
Just let yourself fucking live. Like this idea of like, oh my God, I have to marry somebody or find a partner, and then like already start thinking like, if that's what's in the stars for you, and I always hated when people were like, oh, it was the worst. I wanted to die and projectile vomit every time.
My mom tells me that every time. She's like, I don't know. When I met Dad, I just knew. And I'm like, and now you hate him. So listen.
I know, but also it's true. But it's also fucking true.
I know.
Like this man walked into a Chili's. You think I thought I was gonna meet my soulmate? At a Chili's? No, bitch. That's not how that went in my head.
What area of Miami was this Chili's in?
Dayland. Kendall, baby.
Fucking hell yeah.
You're right. You're in it. You're in it.
Yeah, that's a
All
Kendall.
right?
That's a little Kendall love story if I've ever seen it. Yeah.
But what I will say is, what was nice is, as much fun as I had being single, like I was never so much like, oh, I need to be in a relationship. I just liked having fun, and I always wanted to be with somebody who treated me right.
Yeah.
But I will say that once I was in the relationship, I am so glad that I got everything I wanted out of my system, because when I tell you that nowadays, like I'm watching the Netflix series, The Ashley Madison Story.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking wild.
Is it wild? Yeah, well, Ashley Madison, that's the app.
The website for adulterers.
I just have to know, like, first off, Ashley Madison sounds like a weight loss website.
So they named it Ashley Madison because apparently those are like the two most common female names that just sounded like higher end names. Like I don't think a website named Maria Consuelo would have done as well. Like, I don't think as many people would have been signing up to.
Or what's that one law firm?
Yeah, to like
Morgan and
Shaniqua
Morgan.
and fucking Elisa is. But like, they wouldn't have, like, no, like Ashley Madison sounds like, ooh, I want to fucking sign up for
It
that.
does, or like a concierge service.
Exactly. It's a
It does
concierge
sound
for puss, is
elevated.
what it was.
Obviously, it sounds elevated. It sounds like two privileged white women.
That's 100%.
Ashley Madison sounds
We'll
like
help you ruin your life. And
Ashley Madison sounds like the two names of the girls who broke your glasses in school and who threw me against the wall in an Applebee's.
and the girls last night that need to be cut.
Carry on.
Two of
Yes.
them.
Yes.
Okay,
Ashley,
so-
yeah.
so, like,
Getting
I was-
things out of your system.
So,
Yeah.
so getting things out of your system, right? Like, I'm watching this documentary, and then like the common denominator among the stories that I'm hearing as to why, you know, these adulterers go, like, I get it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, I get that people who they get bored, and if your relationship is not solid, but it's like when I tell you, well, first of all, cheating has never been something that's like,
I really don't do it.
I'm just not. That's not in me, right?
I vengefully made out with an ex when I was with my monster abusive ex, but I didn't feel bad because he was.
That's a different.
That was a different situation.
But I'm still of
yeah.
the creed that, like, if this isn't working, like, I'm gonna just, before I go and do anything with anybody else.
Same.
But all that to say, my husband too, before he got with me, like, he was a hoe too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to say that I don't think he would, like, I'd hope not. You know what I mean? But also, that's, when you get older, like, you're just willing to be like, oh, I don't know if it's a deal breaker at this point, depending on what it is or what. But I'm just, all that to say that I'm really glad that I got all my puteria out.
Yeah.
Like, even just partying, like, as opposed to got married in my 20s and then had kids and didn't get to go out. And then now here I am in my 40s, my kids are grown up, and I'm just like,
Wondering what if.
oh my God. Like, there is no what if. Like, I did it. I did the partying. I dabbled. When I say dabbled with drugs, like, I learned
Dabbled.
very quick. Yeah. Like, I learned very quickly that was not for me.
Yeah.
Pot is not a drug, by the way. That is the Lord's goodness.
It's natural.
It's very natural.
Yeah. I tried to smoke the fake aloe plant this morning. No, I'm kidding.
Should have getting fucked up.
Yeah.
But even alcohol, right? Like, I gave up drinking
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I got that out of my system. And now, like, so all that, when I see shows like Ashley Madison and why people do what they do, it's because they're like, they feel like they're missing something or they need excitement in their life again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that I totally agree. And I also think that, in those stories, and I'm not speaking for everybody, it's my theory, and those stories with people that later on in life in their marriage feel like they missed out or like they want to explore something or they're attracted to somebody or whatever. My theory, or at least what I think it would be for me, is that somewhere along the lines, my road to that marriage or that partnership or that settling down or whatever it is, I disconnected from myself a little bit. I maybe lied to myself along the way about how much sex I wanted to have or what else I wanted to explore. Or maybe I thought I was ready and I wasn't, or I thought I needed to be. That's always what my theory is when that happens. And I think a lot of people take it personally, and I can see why in those partnerships. Like, why would he want to open up the marriage? Why would she want to sit
Right.
down? Why did she cheat?
Right.
And it's like, first off, everybody's behavior is always a result of themselves.
Totally.
We always talk about this. Everything is projection at the end of the day. Every way that anybody responds to you when you order a coffee or when they tell you to go fuck yourself, whatever it's coming from, it's them.
That's on them.
It's
yeah.
always them. How would it not be? It's words that came out of their mouth from their brain.
Right.
It's projection. It's them. So it's like, I'm always like, it always has more to do with that person. And sometimes our ego lets us think that it's like, I'm not hot enough, I wasn't enough, whatever. It's like, no, I actually sometimes think along the lines that person was maybe not honest with themselves about what they wanted.
Right.
Or
even their partner, because you're going to evolve in a relationship. Like,
course.
I've been with this man for 14 years.
I was going to ask you what it's like to be with somebody I can't even be on a date for 14 minutes. So I was going to ask you.
It feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
But we've grown up together. Like, we've done the kind of growing up together that I feel like, okay, now we're full blown adults. Like, oh, this is what adulthood, and this is what really planning for the rest of your life is supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful that at this point I get to plan for the rest of my life with someone else in mind, because I used to just think for myself.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, because when I was single and I had my fun, and just relationships are hard. Like, these last 14 years, it's been work. Working on the relationship and finding the balance. And because you're one of the very few people who I do share some intimate details, right? Just to get that second opinion.
Of course.
But that being said, if it's not him, when I tell you that if it's not him, like, I'm ready to just do life by myself if it's not with him. So I feel like I'm in a win-win situation.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Now, going back to the not being honest with yourself, you also need to be honest with your partner, because when you're growing and you're evolving together, like you need to be honest with each other about the things that are important to you.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm grateful for, Ramses met me as a comic. And even though I took a huge hiatus because my dad passed away after we met, and then we didn't get together till 2 years after that day that we met in Chili's, right? And when we got together and I was like, we went on a date for the first time 2 years after we met. And then I moved to New York like a month after we went on our first date. And I'm like, this was already in the plans. And then when my dad passed away, right, I came back, we were like, that's it. We continued right where we picked up, and we've been together since.
Yep.
But I took a huge hiatus in comedy after my dad passed.
Yeah.
Right? But he knew I was a comic.
Yeah.
And even though I was like, well, I'm going to go a different path, like he never stopped supporting the fact that comedy and entertainment, right? And I don't know what I would have done if I would have decided so many years later, like, you know what, now I'm ready to do this full time again. And if he would have been like,
right.
So that's the
It
other
wouldn't
thing.
have worked.
It wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Same thing with him. I mean, everything that he's ever come to me and said, this is something I want to do or explore, I'm not like, you're not in a partnership to control another person. You're there to support them. If something doesn't make sense, you really have to take a step back and take yourself out of the picture and be like, okay, this isn't for me, but it's what my partner wants. How does this affect me?
Right. And is it something I can live with? And am I honest with myself about that? And you find that, I think, a lot also when people cheat, not to go back to that, but it's like a lot of people stay thinking that they can and they don't consider their own feelings, and then they hold that over their partner's head for eternity. And it's like, well, you're not honest with yourself, let alone being honest with them about how or if you're able to move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying too is like, there's this weird misconception, and it's also like I think we get caught up in like who deserves who and who wants who, and you're gonna miss me and want me bad. There's this whole like, we put an unnecessary power dynamic in it, and it's exactly what you said, that it's like partnership and building a life with somebody. And that's not punishing them for wanting things. That's not ignoring them for whenever they share something that you don't like or makes you uncomfortable and stuff. Because do you know what I mean? Like, we always put this like, you could lose me at any day, or I'm the best thing he's ever gotten. And it's like, that's so unnecessary, and it doesn't.
It's so toxic.
It's so toxic. Yeah.
I'm not proud. You want to talk about big fucking yikes? Like, I'm not proud of some of the conversations and the things like the disrespect and some of the toxic shit that's gone on in our relationship. But we've gone through it together. We've talked through it. We always come out better as a result.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that the first time that your partner shares something with you that you're not happy about or you don't want to hear, how you react is going to really
set the tone for the whole relationship. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So one thing with us is that we try, maybe one of us a little harder than the other. You know what I mean? But we've both helped each other so much in areas like, again, you make up for each other's weaknesses.
Yeah.
You know, the idea is to help each other highlight your strengths and then help each other, you know, with your weaknesses as well.
Yeah. You guys have to feel good about a relationship that you're in.
That's it.
If it's continuing to bring out, we're all human, and God knows I've admitted and confessed on this podcast to you times when I was an ugly monster in a relationship too, and said things I can't take back, yada, yada, yada. It's in the past. We've forgiven ourselves for it now. He actually moved on. I just recently found out he has a girlfriend, and I know there's a healing component, because I was like, oh, good for him. Honestly.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of grief for myself and my feelings, and a little bit of like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, or like he was maybe more available for that, or grew into that availability than he maybe was with me, for all the reasons and whatever. But I knew it was true healing, and that I truly did care for him, because I was like, good for him.
Yeah.
You know, that's good. But, I say that to say, if you're constantly with somebody who's bringing out sides of you that you don't like, it's not sustainable. And then the house rots from the inside.
Yeah.
That way.
Well, and if they're bringing out a side of you that you don't like, because to touch on that for a second, I feel like the best relationships too, you do shadow work with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you're like, oh, you just showed me something I don't like. Let's look at it.
So we need to take accountability for the fact that, ooh, if this person triggered this side of me that I'm not crazy about. There's a lot more to it than just, that's not okay. It depends on, is it a constant trigger? Are they doing it on purpose, knowing that if they say X, Y is going to happen? You know what I'm saying? It's like, are you purposely trying to, but also it's like, that's kind of how we've helped each other heal. You know what I mean? Like, if my own partner can't tell me the things that maybe other people are thinking, you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather him tell me something and me have to react and deal with it with him before I get triggered by a complete stranger and then don't know.
And then they see that side of you where that comes out. You'd rather do it with somebody you have an established love and trust and respect with, that
like,
you're in
all
the
that
relationship.
said, he's still my safe space, as I feel that I am his.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? When it comes to, like, even if we say the most fucked up thing. And what we always try to keep in mind, and then maybe one of us more than the other, is that...
I feel like it's the woman. No, okay.
It's also like, even just where him and I are in our own healing process of different things that happened in our lives. There's no comparison what my partner went through in life versus me, right? So he's healing and going through things so much more than I ever did, right? So I take a lot of that into account, and I'm so proud of him for how far he's come, which is why I make the allowances that I make.
Right.
If he had not shared with me as much about his past, and if he wasn't as open with me about why he is the way that he is, then I wouldn't know how to react. And likewise, like, he puts up when I tell you, like, this is not one side, like, I am a fucking baby. I mean, we are what they call dinks, dual income, no kids, right? Like, we're in our mid 40s, 2 dogs. Like, we literally just live for each other, ourselves, our dogs, you know, our families, but like, we're not raising kids, so it's like everything we do, we are each other's kids. We're each other's lovers, and we're each other's kids.
You know
and
what I mean?
also
in the ways that you're healing each other, you're now also each other's parents in some ways too. That's not in a weird incest way. Like, in a truly, like, a healing wounds and caretaking and
100%.
guiding and almost adult rearing, not child rearing.
If I had an actual kid, he'd be fucked because he would not be getting as much attention. And vice versa. I'd have to, like, I'd be like, what the fuck's up with this kid? Oh, that's right, it's my kid too. You know what I mean?
Well, I think you touched on, I think the consistency in that relationship is the consistency. And I think it's B, you guys constantly choose each other. Like, even what you said, if I weren't with him, I'd just be by myself, and that would be fine too. But it's so much better that I am able to do these things with him, because I think we do forget that all relationships are elective. Like, you don't need to date anybody. You don't need to have, even in full marriages, you could just leave one day. Like, you know, it's like nobody, friendship-wise, romance-wise, everything is elective, you know? So that also is a reminder that, like, if someone's not gelling with you, or you don't like how someone talks to you, or you even just simply don't enjoy, you don't really have a ton of fun when you hang out with them, it's your life. It's one life to live. Like, that doesn't need to be there. But also, it's like with your partner, it's also remembering that it's like, we are choosing to do this. And I think that's even more than chemistry or anything else. It's that choice to, like, continue to show up and fix things and do that. It's
and you said choose each other every day.
And choose each other, because you could very easily be like, I'm not in a place in my, that's what my number one frustration was with, you know, who I dated last year too, because the two of us, it was this, like, really profound conversation about where the two of us knew our shadow sides. We knew them, the two of us did, and we brought them out in each other. And I just felt like we were at that intersection where I was like, I think I want to try again and work on these things with you, because I think there's a reason you're showing me these things. And I think for the first time in my life, or a while, I'm seeing my shadows, and I'm like, I know that that's a person that there's potential for growth with. If you make me feel in such a way that you're bringing this out, you have two choices when that happens. You're either
gonna embrace it, or you're gonna run.
Or you're gonna run.
That's it.
And I embraced it, and he ran.
But what you said about staying, what you said about staying true, especially when you've been with someone for so long, it's not as easy as it sounds either.
Of course,
we can theoretically say it's a choice, and that's it. When you're done, and you walk the fuck out and you leave. But when you've been with somebody for a long time, and if your finances are tied together, and and you've built a life together, it's not that easy. Which is why you have to be certain of who and what who you're with, and this life that you're going to build together. And honestly, you don't know until you do it, and it either works or it doesn't.
And that's something that could break a relationship, and rightfully break a relationship too. But it's something I never thought about in my 20s, and at 33, I'm just like, how's his Money. Does he have discipline in his life? Does he
No, honestly, Britt, like even when Ramses and I met, like I was at a point in my life already when it's just, again, how universe and the whole like, oh, you'll just know when the timing, right? It's fucking true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Granted, he came into my life during a time, like my dad had passed away, right? Like the most important man in my life just got taken from me, but then God was like, I got you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of our relationship,
I've had that thought about my parents, that I'm like, I feel like when I meet someone significant, I feel like God won't take them from me until that significant relationship comes into my life, or that significant career thing, probably relationship.
God takes care of us.
He always,
period.
I do too. And
You know what I mean?
I don't hate him as much as I went through my Catholic bitter phase and my weird questioning and reconciliation. And I think this year I've really, I do love God. I do definitely believe in him.
Yeah.
More than I think.
And people, for anybody who's listening, it's like I've because of what we do, and because I feel like there's so many great messages when we talk about God and spirituality, I'm never ashamed to say God, and I refer to God as God and he, but I no longer see God as like
godly.
Well, no, growing up Catholic, like I don't tie God to religion. So a lot of people will hear the word God and they'll be like, oh, these religious freaks. It's like, no, granted, I was raised Catholic and I believe in Christian values and on, but there's so many things about so many different religions. At the end of the day, I think all religion is absolute bullshit. Yeah. Right? So I believe in spirituality and energy. Religion is a business. Yeah. Religion is a government. Yeah. It's its own fucking...
Well, I just saw something on the internet that said that even about America. Like, it was like, America was created as a business. That's all you are.
Totally.
It's a business. It's, totally. I mean, yeah, we can get into and break down capitalism and everything, but it's literally like, you're not a human being. You're barely a citizen. You're a number, your capital, your content, and your money, and that's it. And it's the same thing with religion. And I think when there's too much structure and there's too much money and there's too much semantics, I don't know what word you want to put it, that's when things get corrupt and you lose sight of what it... I spent years convincing my mom, who would want me to go to mass and guilt me into going to mass, and I was years ahead of her. Obviously, we're different generations, and being like, I could talk to God anywhere. Like, even as a kid, I was like, I don't need to go to church. Couldn't I just talk to him right now?
Yeah. That's honestly, so I don't know.
Isn't he here?
I think you know this about me.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know this about me. Even though when I worked at the cruise line that I won't name because I won't give them any endorsements.
I wanted to talk to you about corporate.
Oh, we can let it ride. We can totally let it ride. I had that
on my list. Yeah,
we can totally let it ride.
Yeah.
I just had a total brain fart. Who were talking about?
We were talking about God. And talking to him anywhere.
Oh, okay. Okay. I said the people at my last job knew this about me because I would reference him a lot. But I listened to Joel Osteen. Now, mind you, I even chuckle when I say it because I know the jokes and I get it, and I think they're fucking hilarious, and I'll make the same ones. I try to be a little bit more respectful just because since I listen, and I'm like, I really like the messages, but hey man, you have your own reputation and you brought those memes and that image upon yourself. Yeah. But what I try to do is I try to remove the messenger from a good message. So that's kind of like what I would want for people to take away from this part of the conversation, even as I brought up that, like, don't get caught up with the fact that we use the word God, right? If you're like universe, source,
higher power,
it's all the same. We're just calling it something different,
and
right?
You gotta just call it what makes sense to you.
Look, Joel Osteen, why I fuck with him, well, first of all, because when it was like non-denominational, right? So I appreciate that, like, okay, so we're gonna get, and anytime he says anything that ties to religion, that's when I'm like, I don't always agree. Yeah. Right? But for some reason, his Southern twang, like 12 years ago when I started listening to him, that fucking Southern twang just got me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, he's got my attention. The accent has my attention. The messages were soothing. Yeah. There were some really good messages that I took away.
He's got a real Bible Belt voice.
But there were some really, there was one sermon that I heard that was called Controlling Your Emotions. And I think it's because of that one that resonated with me so much. I had this conversation with my mom the other day. I'm like, when I heard that message about controlling my emotions, I knew I'm so fucking hyper aware. And you know, I'm very self-aware about certain things.
Yes. And
I I knew that was going to be for the rest of my life what I needed to focus on. I was sobbing listening to that message. I'm like, if I don't control my emotions in this life, that's going to be my fucking demise, be it happiness, anger. And so I'm like, okay, so now when I listen to him, I extract the message. I try not to think like, it's not, ooh, I love Joel Osteen. God used him as an instrument to send these messages. So people can say whatever they want about him.
Yeah.
But that's really a lot of the messages that I've extracted are from a lot of his sermons.
Yeah.
He's one of many that I listen to. You know what I mean? In terms of like for spirituality, but
yeah. Well, it's interesting that you said that you can extract the messenger from the message.
Yeah.
For good reasons. And then I wonder how or if we can do that with a bad message.
Well, what
you
if
know, like the other side of it? Like I'm
what
just
if I
thinking
gave
about
you,
it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was going to say, I thought you were going somewhere else. I was going to say, like, what if I read you a quote?
Kind of like what we were talking about last night when you hear a message
from somebody
you think you have a familiarity with and that you know and otherwise has been kind, good, positive, passes the check, and you do hear a message that you're like,
they say
whoa,
something and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was your
perspective.
But that's why you don't talk about sex, politics, really. That's why certain topics are off the table.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like, hey, if you don't want to know what this person's thoughts are, if knowing what this person's thoughts are on XYZ topic are going to change your opinion about them, then it's best.
Ignorance may be bliss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because people knew, if I was talking to somebody who was very politically driven, I am so far removed. If you can get past the fact that I just don't do politics or don't know, then you're going to hate me.
I don't really do politics either. And I think I don't do politics either, but I do pay more attention to certain things that upset me or affect me or I particularly find unjust or are happening. Or, it's certain. And also, by the way, there's like, we live in 2024 where, I'm very passionate about, for instance, like, abortion rights.
Yeah.
Domestic violence, partner violence, support for that and stuff. And, it's like, there's so much. Nobody could be everything to everyone to cover everything and address everything. Like, it's like, somebody can be like, well, what are your thoughts on Israel and Palestine? And I'm like, and that's an issue that I don't know. And I've had conversations on both sides and it's so convoluted and I just know that the violence needs to end. Yeah. And I don't like seeing genocide. I know that.
Like if my opinion of that topic is what's going to determine whether or not you want to, then it's just better that you don't even know, because I'm not here to appease what your opinion is. So if you're wanting to fuck with me is contingent on that, then just...
Yeah. But see, it's like, so that's where I don't even know what this says about myself.
By the way, insert whatever topic is
what I'm trying to say, because somebody could be like, how are you posting about domestic violence when Gaza is? And I'm like, it's not one or the other.
Right.
It's not, we're not competing over victimhood or we're not competing over pain or violence. I think it's all about what resonates to you. But to your point about like, if you're going to judge me on my opinion on one issue and that's going to be contingent on how you see me and move with me moving forward, I will tell you right now, based on even what we just experienced last night, that like I am like that when it comes to domestic violence and abortion. I hate to say it, but maybe it's just because those are two things that particularly affect me, that I also feel a calling to not only just be a keyboard warrior about, but like raise money, protest, and do what I can, as opposed to just sitting in this injustice or whining or complaining or hopping in a comment thread. I do try to actually convert it into positive action.
But you lived it.
And also lived it. So I don't know what that says about me, like, to be totally transparent, but it's like the remark last night that we both heard that, we won't get into now, but it was, regarding Diddy, and it was just like, well, he's going through it right now. It was essentially empathizing with him. And given my context and again projection and my experiences, I was just like, God, I will view you differently moving forward.
And that's fine too.
It's fine too, because I can't not, know, but if you vote, but I don't know. But then on the other hand, it's like, well, you also I'm at the point if somebody voted for Trump, I don't know if I'd view them differently, because I would go, okay, I don't know anymore. Like, you know what I mean?
It depends on the source, right? Like at the end of the day, like even who we're referring to for yesterday, like this is just somebody, this is a colleague. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like this isn't your mom, this isn't your best friend that all of a sudden you found out really feels this way. That's different.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, when you learn that somebody has a view on something that you feel so strongly about and you're like, oh shit, That if we weren't already close, well, then now that I know this about you, there's a good
just take a
chance
step back.
I won't get any and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And when we're talking about the messenger, the other thing was like, because you said with regards to the opposite, like what about if it's a negative comment? Well, I was going to take it a step further and say, so like, let's say I read you a comment or I share a message with you and you're like, wow, that's a really great message. And then I'm like, okay, but Hitler said it. Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we really get caught up with like not just what is being said, but who is saying it. So that's
who
why
would
for
have known morality is so questionable, or who would have known like these things are so unclear.
A good message is a good message.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not
Machiavelli said, "Kill them all for," right? Like, didn't Machiavelli say like, "Kill them all for the greater good"?
I don't know, who said let them eat cake? Whoever said
let
that.
them eat cake.
Whoever the fuck said.
Whoever said fuck bitches get money.
Genius.
They are my god.
Genius.
Yeah. Well, then, we can go down a whole other path about words and actions as well, too.
Well, speaking about actions, you want to talk about corporate. What? Let it rip. What do you want to talk about corporate?
I don't know. I just know we both have had corporate trauma. I know you have had probably more than me, I would say, because the two of us have had backgrounds in 9-to-5s and buttoned up. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was a dark time. And now that I'm on the other side of it and I've had corporate backlash even in the last couple of months. Not backlash, but working in radio, which I was like, radio's so fun. And then I was like, oh, wait, that's right. It's still a corporation.
Yeah.
But I feel like every time I hear people complain about jobs, I'm just like, I just think every job sucks. I just think everybody's going through it. Everyone's like, God, everything's such a mess at my job. The management, it's toxic. It's whatever. And I don't know. I could see two sides to that. On the one, I'm like, of course it is, because it's a business and it's not your business. And you're working for somebody else. And you probably are overworked. Who the fuck isn't overworked?
Yeah.
We run our own businesses and we're overworked. But then on the other side of it, I'm like, is it toxic, or is it just a workplace forces you to see people that you don't elect to have in your life necessarily every day? And that's going to now be differences in opinions and political views and work. And you know what? Is it toxic, or is it just like you have to see a bunch of people like school? You have to see a bunch of people every day.
Oh my God.
That you don't choose.
Yeah. See, but school, like growing up when you're a kid, like unless you're a rebel kid and you're like, fuck you, mom and dad, and I'm leaving the house at the age of 12. Like we don't have a choice as kids, right?
Right.
We have a choice as adults.
Yeah.
Corporate America trains you and tries to program you as if you don't have a choice. Right?
Yeah.
What's ingrained in our heads, especially in this country, is like, no, you have to work, and you have to work for someone else, and you have to have a 401k, and you have to have health insurance.
The system is the safety and the only way to go.
Now, not to take away from the times that health insurance, thanks to health insurance, I was able to have certain procedures done when I worked in corporate
Money's
America.
great. Stability's great.
Thanks to a 401k that I built while I was working in my corporate job when the pandemic hit and I decided to leave corporate America.
Yeah.
That, what was supposed to be a retirement fund, really came in handy and provided me with a salary while I built myself up to this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did the same thing. I dipped into my 401k when I started stand-up, and I was like, thank God it's here.
Thank God it's here.
Here to help me navigate this crazy 401k
thing. Is just insert whatever money saving program planning for the future.
Yeah,
here.
whatever. Yeah.
Corporate America tries to instill in you that like this is the formula and the path. I'm really grateful for my time in corporate America.
Yeah, me too.
And it's so funny because when Sean sent me the email for the show, that it was like, oh, just have like some big yikes moments. Like, remember, this show is about vulnerability and sharing like mistakes and whatnot. I was like, oh, you need me to come with a list? I'm like, I'm coming with a folder that's color coded with categories.
Yeah.
But corporate America is not my big yikes.
No.
But I will say that it was during the pandemic and when I decided to leave corporate America that I had this like epiphany. And as we all did, the pandemic did a fucking number on all of us emotionally, right? But really, when I tell you that I'm so grateful that I took the leap and left working for someone else to take the chance on myself. It's like, if I'm going to work this hard for somebody else, I need to try to put that same effort towards my own brand
Spending
and my
on
own
yourself.
business. Exactly.
Yeah.
I got the background. I'm grateful to the fucking training grounds in corporate America. But like now it's time to do this for myself, right? During the pandemic, though, how I handled after I left corporate America and that I came out and just tried to expose like a bunch of shit that was happening in my company. You know what I mean? That's what was pretty wild for me.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Like that reckoning that you felt compelled to do? And I'm asking this in the most neutral sense because I think you and I are similar in that sense that you and I are the bell ringers.
Yeah.
I'll say it when nobody else will.
Yep.
You may hate me, but here's the truth.
Yep.
And, I think as you get older, I mean, a bitch is tired. I'm tired. Like, that's still in me, but I also have to pick my battles. So I wonder, how do you feel about that expose that you did leaving your corporate life?
I try not to live my life with regrets.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I live by the creed that we make decisions. At any time, we make decisions based on the information that we have in the moment and what we think is the best thing to do in that moment.
And every decision is risk and sacrifice.
100%.
Yeah.
I was not thinking, how am I going to feel about this 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now? What if this blows up in my face? What if I don't get the results that I want by exposing? Which, FYI, spoiler alert, I did not get the results
that you wanted.
That I wanted or was hoping for.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. I still don't have closure. But what is nice is I have healed from a lot of the things that would trigger me whenever this topic would come up regarding like what I was trying to expose, which what I was trying to expose was pretty heavy. Like there were some bosses and leaders who just were not very nice and how they treated women and how they and there were just, and I was triggered 6 months after I left the company because a former colleague had committed suicide and how the information got back to me. And I actually really I made some waves, no pun intended, because it was a cruise line. I was making some waves but what I found was when you try to expose somebody and you try to do it by yourself without having people backing you up or having things in writing, it can be really lonely because a lot of people fucking turn their back on me.
Oh, I know.
So you want to talk, and that it hasn't just happened to me in corporate America. That happened to me in comedy when I tried to expose.
Oh yeah, we've been through the trenches of that. And you completely had my back and I appreciated that. And you were, go on, you were right.
Well,
you were right, but yes, 100%.
To kind of wrap that up into one main point, because this is a whole episode on itself, is breaking that down into different parts. But with regards to exposing that and taking on that, you know what, I'm going to be this vigilante and I'm not just, one thing I've learned about myself is that I tend to, I won't fight for something if I don't have a little bit of involvement in it, if it doesn't affect me somehow. Like I'm not a virtue signaler, Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
So it's
like what I was saying earlier when I was like, I fight so hard for those two causes because I was very involved in them. And, it
doesn't mean I don't have an opinion on things that don't involve me, but as far as you hearing me actively talk about it, for the most part, I'm gonna have a little bit of skin in the game.
Yeah,
right. I'm not necessarily the main character, but all that to say, obviously in corporate, I worked there. Yeah. With the comedy thing, I was connected to it as a comic, and because information was brought to me, and it's like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
And being somebody in the community who's been around, I felt this mama bear need to speak up for some of the women. And because I'm not a single woman in the scene, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you had no personal stake in it either. But I think that's also the person that it should have come from. If I didn't know you personally, in, for context for listeners without naming, but it was a male comic's just disgusting behavior and selfishness. And what ended up happening as a result was it pitted a lot of the female comics against each other, which is also why I put the onus on women in that sense to be we also have control in that scenario to not let that pit us against each other. Right. And there could have been transparency and there couldn't, and then obviously pick-me's rose to the top and thought they'd be the cool hero to be like, I don't care, it's just sex, it's whatever.
Right.
But if I didn't know you personally and I saw that story from afar, I would want that reaction to have come from somebody like you.
I appreciate
and I will say now, of course, and now 2, 3, whatever it is, years removed, if that happened to somebody else with my role in Miami comedy and South Florida comedy. And by the way, it happened to me. I was directly affected, and Ellie and I are good friends. So that's also why Ellie felt this you're also fucking with someone I care about, plus other people I care. And that's on a whole, I would do what you did. And I know I may, outside of you, per usual, like how we are with each other, I probably would be left holding the fucking bag myself too, for the most part, minus maybe you or Abby or a handful of other close friends. But I would do what you did if I saw that happening to another comic now, if that makes sense. Because now I feel a little more seniority in the scene, and I would have done what you, and I still think your heart was in the right place with that, and morally.
I don't regret it. But what I'm alluding to here is that I tend to put myself in these situations to speak up or like defend people, right?
Yeah.
Even if they haven't asked me to. So it's like at the end, the people that I'm defending, i.e. in the case of like with the comic, some of the women that turned on me and they were like, well, like we didn't ask her to. It's like it's like, okay, I see you, bitch. I see you. Like, you're not a girl's girl.
No,
you're not even really here for the comedy. You're here to see who you can fucking blow or fuck. So get out of my face. And so that it really hurt me to learn that some of the women that I was defending could so easily be like. But then on the flip side of that, I'm like, you know what though, puticas, you're right. You didn't ask me.
And I you don't deserve.
So next time, good fucking
luck.
And I get it. You don't need me. I don't need to be anybody's savior. I get it. But I did learn, because at the end of the day, I exhausted a lot of energy, a lot of heartache at the end for a majority that didn't appreciate it. Do I regret it? No, because if even just the one person appreciates it and gets it, then I feel like it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would tackle things a little differently in the future. In both scenarios, both with my corporate fiasco, with the comic, and something else even during the pandemic that I outed, I was very public on social media about these things. So one thing I did learn
is those conversations IRL.
That's it. Yeah. I think
social media just adds like,
I can't say I'm done forever.
Drama. Yeah.
But nothing good has ever come out of me. Even recently, like something with, a venue that tried to fuck over a bunch of comics. It's like, you have to be prepared when you put yourself. I mean, look, the whistleblower from Boeing got fucking killed, so you got to be prepared.
Yeah, no, you do. Yeah, we may get killed Saturday night at the roast, but no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But it does add.
By the way, if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably after the roast, so we didn't get killed.
So we didn't get killed, hopefully, or you're listening in memoriam.
That would be dark. And accused down the top.
I just said, you want to shoot me? Thank you. Take care of it for me. No, I'm kidding. And we're landing the plane here, and this has been an incredible combo. But I have so much to say in regards to everything that happens that is painful or dramatic or stings or a little intense or contentious or whatever. Always more grateful in hindsight, because if it weren't for those reckonings, fights, exposés, and things like that, my goodness, we wouldn't have known the sheep that were around us.
Oh, dude.
Or we wouldn't have seen the characters that were around us, because that situation in particular in South Florida comedy was extremely painful for both of us. You, from an outside perspective, and as a leader in this scene, and as seeing somebody that you cared about going through also a personal heartache and disappointment on top of a like social and professional nightmare that I was like, oh my God, this is now affecting like every pillar in my life, over dating a comic that decided to just be a sleazy piece of shit and whatever. Now everything's affected.
Yeah.
And it's like, but again, that mentality and that reaction of I didn't ask you to defend me. You're right. It's equally double-sided. You're right. What am I doing? Unnecessarily stressing myself out for you. But on the other hand, it's also like, if that's your perspective, cool. I disagree. And also, I just believe that shit comes back around. If you're like, well, I didn't ask you to step up for me, or you could take the fall on this and whatever. I think karma really takes care of people. Just wait, because this is a crazy industry, even crazier world and whatever. And like, there will come a time when you're going to eat those words and you're going to be like, you might be alone and you might wish somebody was defending you. And also in situations like that too, like it's like, my thought process would be, which is what it was then and what it is now, is, yeah, you may not have known them personally. You may not have personally known details. You're right. You didn't need to necessarily involve yourself or say anything or whatever. But it's like, sometimes things do have to be fought on principle, even if you're not directly affected. Like, you didn't date him, obviously. And I do agree that sometimes you do have to stand on business. You got to stand on.
I'm not going to stop doing that. Yeah,
I'm not going to stop doing that.
But it just might not be in a public forum.
I just involved myself in a venue situation that you're referencing, and I wasn't booked on that show, and my money wasn't affected. But I am a working comedian in South Florida who that has happened to and could happen to again.
It's like if we were a union.
It's a union, and it's a trickle down effect. And I was community, and if you Brittany Brave comedy and you Google my Gmail account right now, I'm leaving a 1-star review at a cafe I have never and will never step foot in, letting them know don't fuck over local comedians and local talent, because this is one big community, whether your contribution is a restaurant or a joke. So, but that's why I involve myself outside of my personal friends getting fucked over. I was like, on principle, imagine that level of selflessness to involve yourself in something, because on principle, you are a human being who it could happen to, and we are in a shared experience. Like, that to me is the other way to see it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're right. I didn't need to involve myself. Okay, it's not my business. Whatever you want to say, totally. But also, on the other hand, like, am I not a comedian? Am I not a member of society? Am I not somebody who this could happen to? Am I not a living, breathing woman? Like,
the bigger lesson for me is less about not involving myself and more so the fact that I was so public. Social media. So I think for me, it's like, yeah, you're right. I'm not necessarily going to stop doing that, and I don't regret doing that. It's the element of having put it on social media. It's like, I don't need to put it out there for everybody else.
And you know what that brings me back to? It's almost like what we were talking about 15, 20 minutes ago about the message and the messenger and the platform. It's like all these and it's like, and social media is a great tool for that. But I think why we both been burned with that is, I joke about this on Facebook. Like, sometimes I see people sharing their life on Facebook, like just novels of their personal, and I'm like, that's cool.
I've been guilty of it too. And then I'm like, what am I doing?
But I'm also like, we're in such hyper transparency now, and I think so many people are doing it, and social media is so oversaturated. While it was a good tool for freedom of speech, now it's almost diluted. Like, and that's why it ends up feeling more dramatic. Isn't that crazy? It's more dramatic over like who tagged me in this story versus who pushed me into a wall at Applebee's. It's more dramatic to be tagged in the story than pushed in the wall at Applebee's.
Like, just get me out of this place.
Get me out of here. Where can people follow you? What are you working on?
I'm like, speaking of day job. I'm like, speaking of day job, which I still have because I don't have enough followers. Follow me at Laugh with Ellie. It's not Eli. It's fucking, I don't know what, or I'm looking over here and I'm looking at you on a TV screen. Laugh with Ellie, ELI, right? Look for the fairy god Puta.
Yeah.
Logo, but follow me, Laugh with Ellie. Every Monday, I'm at 14 North Dania. Next to the Dania Improv.
Yes.
Same every Monday.
Fun daiquiri bar.
Yes, super fun daiquiri bar, restaurant. First Monday's open mic, so any comics that hear this, pop in. But yeah, super fun showcase. And yeah, just follow me. That's where I post where I'm going to be at. And yeah, I can't wait to be back. I'm here for the couches and the chocolate in the green room.
We all are.
All right. I love you.
I love you too.